It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films released on July 11th, 2008. And we have a wide assortment of movies here, from The Return of Hellboy to Brendan Fraser in a new family adventure. And also we have Eddie Murphy starring in a movie where he plays Eddie Murphy. Inside of Eddie Murphy, but we'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to those movies, of course, let's talk about the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Guillermo del Toro directing the sequel to Hellboy, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. And in this one here, Hellboy and the BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, must battle a mythical prince who plans to reclaim the world for his magical kindred. Story-wise, yeah, the movie itself really isn't all that great story-wise, but everything else about the movie is just... This is what I miss in the newer Hellboy movies, man. This is a film that has just gotten better over time. And the creature designs on this are so well done. You could tell this was made by Guillermo del Toro. And Guillermo del Toro knows the character of Hellboy. Like, he knows how to make an entertaining movie. He did it with the first film. And I think in this one, he did a pretty good job with the second one. You got a great cast all across the board here back again. Selma Blair, Doug Jones, Jeffrey Tambor, John Hurt. This time around, they have... Seth MacFarlane joining in as Johann Kraus, which he's basically playing the fish he plays on American Dad. I mean, that's literally what it feels like when you watch him in this. But he's pretty good in here. The only thing I could say that's against the movie per se is that the villains are not that intimidating at all. You've got Lucas and Anna Walton, and they look cool, but they really are not that threatening at all. I mean, the other creatures in the movie are much more threatening than these two are, but... With all that said, though, the movie still is a ton of fun. It definitely carries a lot of what I love about the Hellboy movies in particular. The effects in this movie are very well done. The fantasy is epic, atmosphere and all that. It works very well. The visuals are very impressive to look at. And Ron Perlman, man, Ron Perlman was just made to play Hellboy. I mean, David Harbour was great as Hellboy, but the movie he was surrounded with was absolutely terrible. And that was why the 2019 film doesn't work. But... you know, he's pretty good as Hellboy in that film, but he just didn't have a good script to work with here. Ron Perlman had the benefit of having everything given to him with a really good script, really good, not really a script in this particular film, but a really good director who had a clearer indication of what the world of Hellboy needed to look like in order to succeed. And they did a fantastic job with it with these movies. These are two films that still very much hold up for me over time. And the more I see the newer Hellboy movies, the more I've grown more appreciative of the Hellboy movies of the past. And just such really good movies, man. This one is definitely one that you should definitely want to check out. Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Definitely more than worth it. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next film we have here. And that is Journey to the Center of the Earth. Journey to the Center of the Earth 3D. This is a film where Brendan Fraser plays a volcanologist, and his nephew, Josh Hutcherson, embark on a mission to go looking for his missing brother with help from an Icelandic guide played by Anita Briem as they come across the center of the Earth. And really, the trailer, I think, does a pretty good job of summing up the fun factor of the movie in general. You could tell, watching that trailer, that everybody knows how silly this is. I mean, there's literally a scene where the trailer just stops for them to just pretend like they're falling, and Brendan Fraser literally has to scream out, "We're still falling!" Like they're fully in on the joke. And because of that, I kind of have to give this movie more credit than it probably deserves, because, yeah, on the surface, this is not the best movie overall, and it could be a really bad film at times, but because the movie is in 3D, and because I think the people who are making this movie are fully aware of how silly this concept is, they're having the time of their life making this movie. And yeah, it's a very silly movie, it's a very cornball movie, but it's definitely worth it just for the over-the-top performances everybody gives in this. I think they really are gaming themselves for a film that they know is pretty terrible and makes no sense whatsoever, but they know how silly it is. And this is the same director that would later do, of all things, the Yogi Bear movie, which, believe it or not, is actually a lot better than I think a lot of people would give it credit for, man. But as far as this movie goes, yeah, it's pretty much what you think it is. It's a very silly kids movie that has the benefit of, you know, impressive 3D effects. And I think the 3D effects in here are pretty good. I think they do a pretty good job of making that work for what they're trying to accomplish here. It's a movie that you go into it, you gotta know how silly it is. I mean, it's kind of like the Spy Kids movies, especially Spy Kids 3D. Like, if you know going into it that you're going in for a very silly, stupid movie where the people involved know how silly and stupid it is, and they're not trying to play it seriously or straightforward, you can go into it finding a lot to admire about it. And yeah, it's a very silly movie, but a silly, fun movie all overall. I really enjoy. I enjoy it for on that level. It's a very fun movie. It's a movie where you turn your brain off. It's in the middle of summertime. Go in there with a tub of popcorn. Take your kids with you. You have a good time with it. And that's exactly what it feels like to me. It's a film that knows how stupid it is, but it's going to deliver something entertaining regardless of what you think of it. And I think it did a pretty good job of that. So I give Journey to the Center of the Earth a good review overall. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here. And that's Eddie Murphy starring in Meet Dave. First of all, I can't believe that we've had two movies from 20th Century Fox in the 2000s that literally had to use the song Staying Alive in their trailer. The first one was Fat Albert, which of course gave us Demon Fat Albert. And also this movie, which, there's nothing chaotic and demon that came out of this thing. And oh my god, what the hell was that? Oh yeah, I completely forgot. When they were promoting this movie, they actually had Eddie Murphy head going all across the country. And yeah, imagine driving on the road and seeing that right in front of you. Like, yeah, you thought the wood from Final Destination 2 would give you nightmares if you're sitting right behind it. Have Eddie Murphy staring at you while you're driving. That would be incredibly intense and terrifying to look at. But this is Meet Dave, which has a pretty good concept overall at first. You have a spaceship shaped like a human landing face first on Liberty Island with its crew of tiny, intelligent, and unemotional beings looking for an orb sent from its planet to extract the ocean's salts, which will ruin Earth. The orb is in possession of Josh, the fifth-grade son of a single mother, the mother played by Elizabeth Banks, whose car strikes the ambulatory alien spaceship and cripples its power supply. The crew has 48 hours to recover the orb, throw it into the Atlantic, and leave Earth. And over the course of 2 days, the ship's crew experiences chaos and emotion in New York. Do Earth's giants, Josh and his mom, have anything to teach these brainy aliens? Meanwhile, mutiny is afoot as the cops are closing in, played by Scott Conn and Mike O'Malley. And, yeah, like I said, the concept overall is pretty fun. Like an idea that you have this guy that's shaped like Eddie Murphy as this is in this inside ship where you have all these different people like inside of him controlling him. I mean, it's a concept we've seen done before. Osmosis Jones first did it, and then Inside Out perfected it a few years later. And there are times when the movie can work. I mean, there's a lot of good concepts overall. There's a couple funny moments in the film. I mean, I was laughing in the trailer when he was speaking for the first time, and his vocal chips were so screwed up that they were destroying glass and all that. And at times there are moments when that's funny. Gabrielle Union hitting Eddie Murphy on the back of the head and doing the "yeah, boy, yeah," like that stuff. That stuff can be funny, but at other times, yeah, this movie really isn't as funny as it could be. Now, it's not as bad as some of Eddie Murphy's bad movies that he was making around the time, because he was making some real stinkers, 1,000 Words, and of course the previously reviewed Norbit. This one, I think, is one of the lesser bad ones, but it's not enough for me to say that this is a film that you should watch. It's definitely a bad Eddie Murphy movie, mostly because they're not really doing anything funny or clever with it. There's just so much in this film where I feel like there could have been so much more that could have been done. I mean, you have a cast that includes some heavyweight talent. I mean, Murphy, Banks, Union, Scott Conn, Ed Helms, Kevin Hart, Mike O'Malley, Lachlan Monroe. I mean, Yvette Nicole Brown's in here. Miguel A. Nunez Jr. from The Office, Pat Kilbane, Mark Blucas. There's a lot of good talent in this film. But unfortunately, there's not anything that's been really given in terms of funny material for them to work with. And this was co-written by one of the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000, Bill Corbett, and Rob Greenberg. Rob Greenberg wrote a lot of How I Met Your Mother. So there was a lot of people involved in this movie that actually could be really funny in general. But when even one of the writers of the movie, Bill Corbett, came out and basically just owned the film, like, that's not a good sign of anything in particular, and really just kind of shows what really went wrong in this movie. I mean, Eddie Murphy himself didn't even show up for the premiere of this movie. I mean, he was that disappointed by it, and he would later go on to say it's one of the worst movies he's ever made. And for a guy that made stuff like Pluto Nash and Norbit, that's a really tough list to be considered a part of, honestly. But like I said, there are times when it can be really funny, but at the same time, there's just not enough there for me to say it's one you should definitely check out. It's a film that has a good concept, has good ideas to it, but just fails on so many levels, mostly with the jokes and all that stuff, and the really bad, lackluster comedy in general. And I think most people were really starting to get tired of Eddie Murphy, because once you thought he got not the Oscar nomination for Dreamgirls, he'd go to do more dramatic roles in particular. But no, he went back to these really bad comedies, and it wouldn't take until almost 15 years later for him to get back to drama with stuff like Dolomite Is My Name, and what was the other one he did? What was it? You Hurt My Feelings? Wasn't that a drama too? Or You People was that? And I guess Mr. Church is another one too, even though that one wasn't really well received and all. But, you know, everyone thought he was going to do more dramatic work after Dreamgirls, but then they just go back and keep making these terrible comedies. I mean, just one after another. And, like, I mean, he still does it nowadays, but at least he's being smarter and picking movies in particular that he thinks will be more successful than stuff like 1,000 Words or Imagine That. Even when it doesn't succeed. Like, I really didn't like Coming to America or Candy Cane Lane, but I did like Beverly Hills Cop Axel-F, so I don't know. I mean, like I said, this isn't the worst of the Eddie Murphy comedies he was making around that time. I mean, I still think Norbit is much worse, and 1,000 Words I think is much worse, but this is probably right up towards the middle of that little stretch of bad movies he was making. I mean, this is not great, but at least there's a little bit of ambition and promise to it, but it's not enough for me to say you should check it out. But as it is what it is, man. So that's me, Dave, for you. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and a good weekend coming your way next time around. A chance to, I mean, it's a good opportunity always when you get to talk about one of your favorite movies of all time, in The Dark Knight, and also a good time when you get to talk about one of the worst movies you've ever seen in your life, Mamma Mia. And then there's Space Chimps. God, Fox had a terrible summer of 2008, but we'll delve into all those movies coming up tomorrow on the show, so be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, and hit the notification button and the bell so you get updates on when the videos come out. We do post new videos every day. And always hit the playlist. Check out the previous episode too. So, with all that said, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.